Hi, welcome to a very special edition of Beyond Politics. I'm Catherine Clark. Our guest tonight is well known to any Canadian with a political bone in their body. He's been on television for more than a decade, and he hosts this country's highest-rated comedy show, The Mercer Report. Rick Mercer joins me now to talk all about life beyond politics. Rick Mercer, welcome to Beyond Politics. It's really a thrill to have you here.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
So, did you grow up in a humorous household, or how did you?
Yeah, you know, I grew up in Newfoundland, and in Newfoundland, you know, there's a lot of emphasis put on the funny. You know, we only vote for the funny guy. I mean, there was only one instance, Clyde Wells, where we actually had a premier that wasn't a funny guy, had a great sense of humor. You know, you don't get very far in Newfoundland unless you're funny. I remember reading an article once, and it was tips on job interviews, and they said, never endeavor to be funny. And I was thinking, well, you'd never get hired in Newfoundland. Like, we're not hiring him. He was very serious.
So what is it about that funny aspect? Like, what is it about Newfoundland that expects people to have a good sense of humor? And it seems to be natural. Like, it just
well, I think you just figure out, it's like in a family. Like, I've figured out, and I'm hardly unique here, that, you know, you can get away with a lot if you can make your mother laugh. You know, if you can do that, then you get away with a lot. And certainly, you know, you can get away with a lot if you make the teachers laugh. But in Newfoundland, it's kind of the coin of the realm. It's just, there's a lot of emphasis put on it, and it's important. But likewise, like with comedy, if someone's, you know, trying to be funny a lot and failing, then, you know, the pendulum goes the other way, and then someone smites them.
So you were funny because it got you off the hook?
I think I was funny because it got me off the hook, and it was a defense mechanism. I think most people who go into comedy realize that they used it as a defense mechanism, maybe. And it just, I mean, you know, Newfoundlanders are just kind of funny. I don't know why. It's a natural thing, and we like to talk, and we often don't shut up, and it's just the way it is.
Were your mom and dad funny?
Yeah, my mother's very funny, and she's quite saucy, whereas my father is funny, but he's too nice. You know, he's just too nice to be very funny.
Okay,
because
to be cutting.
Yeah, he would never say anything bad about anyone or say a bad word or anything, whereas my mother has no problem saying bad things.
Your mom was a psychiatric nurse, too.
Goodness.
Do you think that's... Is that
You're like Brian Linehan all of a sudden. Yes, Mom was a psychiatric nurse, yeah. Yeah.
Is that why she's funny? Because she just sees the
other
side of life.
I tell you, my mother went away to become a nurse. She left Newfoundland, central Newfoundland at a time. She went away to become a nurse at a time when, you know, women didn't go away, and then they certainly didn't go up to Halifax. It was outrageous. I mean, you could go to New York maybe, but Halifax, it was just so bizarre. And the fact that she went away, they had no money, so she became a nursing student at the Nova Scotian, which was one of the worst mental hospitals in Canada at the time. I mean, I'm sure none of them were very pretty, but you can imagine it was a mental institution, and that's where she could afford to study nursing. So she was a very brave lady, and her mother was, you know, about as feminist as you possibly could get, and that was the reason why she went away to become a professional. And my grandmother was very saucy and funny too. There's strong women there. So
what were you like as a kid? I mean, we've determined that you were funny, and you were defending yourself against something.
I don't know if I was, I actually don't even know if I was that funny compared to other people. You know, it's like, you know, when you think about your group of buddies you grew up with, I often think a lot of them are funnier than me. They just had other interests, like engineering or something. They went and studied that, you know, and yeah, I don't really think I stuck out as definitely the funniest guy.
Were you quiet?
No, that was never a problem. No, the opposite. I mean, I didn't shut up. That was the problem. And then I at a certain point, I became fascinated with comedy. I liked comedy in a different way than most people did. You know, there's this TV show, The Wonderful Grand Band, which was Tommy Sexton and Greg Malone. They're both from Codco. And it was like a rock traditional band, kind of like a precursor to Great Big Sea. And then there were comedy sketches. And it was the biggest show in Newfoundland, and everyone watched it. But I studied it. You know, to me, it was like the best thing ever. And I could never imagine that anyone would want to do anything else other than be on TV doing comedy. I don't feel that way now, but at a certain point in my life, I did feel that.
But did you want to be doing that kind of comedy?
Oh, absolutely. They had a huge influence on me, and the big part of it was from down the street. It was Newfoundland comedy. It was about Newfoundland. It was from Newfoundland. You know, that show used to get like 270,000 viewers in Newfoundland.
Wow.
Everyone watched it.
Wow.
It was bigger than Dallas, which was the biggest show in the world at the time. So the biggest superstars on television in Newfoundland were Newfoundlanders. And yeah, they were down the street. And so it always seemed like it was possible to me because people down the street were doing it.
You kind of did something like that, though, didn't you? I mean, you won an award when you were in high school for this, and I don't know if I've got the facts totally right, but it was like this punk comedy style.
Oh yeah,
band,
that's how I got in. That's how I got into the business. Like I loved comedy and everything else. But when I was in high school, there was a drama teacher. Her name was Lois Brown, and I joined the drama club, mostly just to hang out with the weirdos. And I thought I'd do backstage stuff. I like the idea of organizing and stuff. And then she said that there was a drama festival coming up, and they were supposed to do one-act plays. And they were going to write their own one-act play, and she wanted me to write. And no one had ever asked me to write before, but she thought I could be part of this collective. So I did, and then that started working out. And then I started writing lines, which I kind of sensed were good, and then I kind of wanted to do them instead of like some other guy doing my material. And so then I ended up in that show, and it was called the 20-Minute Psychiatric Workout. And it had a punk band called Waffet, which stood for What a Effin' Ugly Truck. And they sang really obscene songs, and there was all sorts of very inappropriate material for a high school. And then we won.
Didn't you say it so fast that people couldn't actually understand what you were saying?
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on. Okay. There was a lot of, and we made jokes about other schools that were totally inappropriate, and it was a lot of fun, and yeah, we won the Provincial Drama Festival, and then I was hooked. And then the group of us inside of that created a comedy troupe called Corey and Wade's Playhouse, and then the plan was we were going to finish school and then go to the mainland and do comedy shows and get a TV show like Kids in the Hall. That was the plan. That didn't pan out, but...
So one day you're in this restaurant where you're washing dishes.
Yeah.
And you see these CBC people.
Yes.
And you go over and you pitch a segment to them for radio,
For radio.
Because you hear people get big money.
Well, I got $70, I think, which was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I pitched him over and over again. This guy used to come in, and he had very nice gloves, I remember. And he'd be waiting for his table. And he was a CBC radio producer. And I pitched him on a commentary. And then I kept wearing him down. And then...
It doesn't seem possible.
The woman who owned the restaurant started pitching in, and then it was an issue because he always wanted the nice table and stuff, and so he gave me a shot. And it turned out I had a deep voice, and no one really knew how young I was. And so they started running political commentaries.
Why politics? Because that's really all that you do now.
Yeah.
You do the everyday Canadian stuff, and I think that's one of the reasons why people so identify with you, because they think that you're on their side. Everyone thinks you're on their side.
That's nice.
But the political stuff,
the political stuff's just in my DNA. I always loved the politics, and I just always loved it. It's like, I'm sure some people, the first time they see a baseball game, they just say, "Oh, I love that." I remember watching conventions when I was a kid. I remember watching elections and being so excited about it, and I was kind of aware of the fact that other kids weren't. But my godfather was a fellow by the name of Huey Shea, and Huey Shea was my father's best friend. Huey's deceased now. And Huey is quite an eccentric fellow. He worked, the first time Dad ever met him, he said, he pulled over the side of the road and it was pouring rain. He said, he just met him at work and said, "Huey, get in the truck, it's raining." And Huey said, "It's not raining." Dad said, "Okay," and drove away. And he was like, what kind of guy would say that? But Huey ended up running as a conservative.
Progressive?
A progressive conservative, and during the election when Frank Moores was trying to topple Smallwood, and it was a tie, and then he got elected, and it was a tie, and then the next day, Huey crossed the floor. And then he was almost killed, because it was another election, and he had to run, and he was killed. After that, he ran for the leadership of both the Liberal and the Conservative Party at different times. And he was a very smart, great speaker, and he loved politics, and my father and him would talk politics a lot, and Huey was my godfather, and he was a huge influence on me, and I loved to listen to him talk about politics. He made it exciting. And I think that that's probably why I was so into it.
It sounds like Huey kind of thought of politics as a game. Is that how you see it? Or do you think he took it more seriously?
I think he took it seriously.
Okay.
I mean, he wasn't very good at it in the sense that he wasn't successful, but he gave great speeches, and people always wanted him to see him run and stuff. And he was one of those kind of interesting Newfoundland characters who always had a really great opinion, And that's the way I look at him. And I don't think he looked at it as a game. No.
Do you?
No.
No.
No, I think politics is serious business, and I have a lot of respect for people who are in politics for the most part. I think there's a group of people who, just drive me nuts, and I would like, I could give you a list right now of people that I would like to see leave politics and never grace the door again. But I think most people get into it for the right reasons, and I think it's pretty serious business. But at the same time, like a lot of serious business, you can look at it, in a light way sometimes.
You know how you were talking about the fact that your dad was too nice. He just couldn't go for the kill.
Yeah.
And how your mom was saucy, your grandma
Yeah.
was saucy. And you've obviously inherited that. But do you ever get any of your dad's niggling guilt there when you realize that these politicians are coming to you as much as you're going to them? They love to be profiled.
Sure.
They're allowing themselves to be put in crazy situations, but you're leading them there. Do you ever feel that guilt?
No, I don't. And I tell you, I could probably be a better satirist, when a politician is on the show, and I don't do that as much as people sometimes think, but I've certainly had a lot on over the years. I've never had, I'm nice to their face. The sauciness comes out when I'm doing commentary or I'm on my news desk. But, when they're sitting there, I don't have them on the show to embarrass them, and I've never had any of them, come back and be upset with anything I put on television. In fact, the opposite is true. Usually there's tons of things I don't put on television that would get them in trouble, but that they were just uncomfortable and they thought that, they would make this joke, and it's like, if I put that on television, no one in Thunder Bay would ever vote for you again, or you can't say that, And so I'm actually quite protective of them when they come on the show, oddly enough.
When...
when the Prime Minister was on the show.
Yeah.
And he had to make a sandwich.
Right, and he didn't know how?
Well, he kind of knew how.
It required
soon
bread.
soon after, in an election, Stéphane Dion was doing an interview in Nova Scotia, of course, and he asked for the interview to start over again, and then Mike Duffy made the big deal about it. And then Harper landed the plane and called a special press conference, and he said, "In politics, there are no re-asks." And I thought, well, I have about 15 minutes of tape of him trying to make a sandwich. Can I start again? Can I start again? I could have dug that out, but I didn't.
Let's talk about the Prime Minister.
Yes.
The PMO is really closed up now. I mean, MPs don't like to speak to the media unless they are told
No,
that
people
it's
have
okay.
no idea. I think the media, they do get that story out that how closely managed MPs are and cabinet ministers are by the PMO, and what a closed shop the PMO is. But I don't think people have any idea. I don't think they have any idea that their member of parliament or a cabinet ministers in this country hop to like that because 21-year-olds who've never had a job are telling them what to do. I mean, it's astounding. It really is astounding.
Does it make your job tough?
Well, no, because I don't have to talk to MPs to make my show work. I mean, a big part of my show is just talking to an oyster fisherman or people who run trains for CP. So if I had to rely on cabinet ministers, it probably would be tough. I mean, it's still politics, and there's still some cabinet ministers who will do it because they want to do it, and they take that calculated risk that they're going to do it at risk of offending the Prime Minister. But the way it works now is, you can get the Prime Minister, but you can't get the Minister of the Environment. In fact, you call up and say, I want the Minister of the Environment, and they say, no, but you can have the Prime Minister.
Oh my God, can you
it's a
call for
one-man
us
show.
then? Please call for us.
Well, I haven't called in a while, but it's either him or nothing, right?
Okay. You do less on the Hill. You were just talking about the normal Canadian stuff.
Yeah.
Do you do less because there's less access, or do you do less because there are less interesting people on the Hill now?
Oh, it's a combination. It's not really the access. I mean, my access is pretty good, but it's definitely partially about the cast of characters. Because these people are so kept down and so scripted, you don't have these superstars anymore. I mean, people don't know anything about these cabinet ministers. They don't know what their positions are. They don't know what their personalities are like. And the Prime Minister's office likes it that way. They don't want them going out and people getting to know them. And it's about keeping them down, too. So they're just not that interesting. And I'd rather talk to an oyster fisherman, quite frankly. And if you're just going to have someone do speaking notes from the PMO, then that's just not very interesting.
Could you see yourself doing anything else? Or is this what you were meant to be doing with your life?
I certainly have, I think, the best job for me, and I get to do everything that I like to do, and it's evolved. I mean, when we sat down and planned out the Mercer Report, that was the idea. It was like everything that I think I'm good at, we would work into the show. And it's certainly evolved. It's less politics one-on-one with politicians, but the traveling the country and the going on the adventures that I get to go on, I certainly love all that stuff. And I certainly love the ability to go on and do a commentary every week,
right.
On my own show, which
right.
is my own opinion, which, can or cannot be funny. And I don't take that lightly, and I'm always, very thankful that I get to do that. And in many ways, I look at the whole package is there so I can do that commentary, which maybe that's just the way I look at it. But
do people expect you to be funny? Because I know it can be disconcerting when you tune into your show and you think that you're going to get humor from the rant, and it can be a serious subject matter, and it makes you stop and have to think. And do people expect that you're always going to entertain them?
Like when I'm sitting around in a restaurant or something?
Like if
maybe, but I'm actually a pretty quiet person. My least favorite type of people are the type of people who draw attention to themselves for no reason. And maybe that's because I'm on TV and I get enough attention, and I just don't know why anyone would want more people looking over. Which is why, say, if you bump into John Baird in public, it's always...
You never will.
It's always very stressful, because he goes like, hey! Hey! He's like, hey, look over here! Hey! Right? And you're like, John, inside voice, but he just doesn't stop. So that's why people run the other way. But I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm the life of the party guy, no.
Okay.
But on the show, I think it's a comedy show. People tune in, they want to be entertained. It's a comedy show. The kiss of death in the office, if someone says, oh, we should do this because it's important, well, then we just go, hell with that.
We don't do important
stuff. We don't do
stuff.
important. That's not our job, no.
So have you had a stunt? Because those are classic. Your stunts are really classic.
Thank you.
Have you had a stunt go wrong?
Go wrong, like I've ended up in traction or something?
Create a medical issue.
No, I hurt my leg last season, and it was the first time I've ever hurt myself.
Yeah.
And it was just silly. It was like tobogganing. Like of all the things I've done, and it was, it could have happened just on a Saturday, tobogganing, quite frankly. It was just, that's the only time. I mean, we're pretty careful.
Yeah.
And when you do something crazy like jump out of an airplane, if you're doing it with the Canadian military and Rick Hillier's with you, and you're got a pretty good idea that they're going to, look at the chute and it's all going to be, properly done. It's not like you're pulling it on the side of the road and going, go skydiving for $29.99 in Cuba or something, So we take that stuff seriously.
Is there one stunt that really scared you half to death?
Yes, the train of death. And I should have known, really, when they said you're going in the train of death. That's where they take 3 cars and chain them together. And the first car has a motor, and the second car has no motor or brakes. And then the third car has no motor, but it has the brakes. And you're chained together, and it's like playing Whip It when you're skating. And so the guy in the front is driving. You have no control how fast you are. I was in the very back, just hitting the brakes when I was supposed to hit the brakes, which I had no idea. And it's like whipping around, and it was terrifying. I thought I was going to die.
Why do it?
Well, because I thought it'd be a funny TV, funny segment, and this kid emailed us and said you should do this. It's like so wild, and then we looked at it on YouTube. And we're like, wow, I can really do that. And then we got there, and the kid who emailed us, I said, he showed me how to do it, and then the race was coming up, and we said, okay, you're going to be in the race with me, right? And he said, no, I'm not allowed to go anymore because I've had 9 concussions. 9 concussions? You're 20 years old.
Did you wear a helmet?
Yes, I always wear a helmet.
Did you, right?
Yeah, of course.
That's smart.
No.
At least that you know of.
No, exactly.
Who are your favorite people to interview?
In the old days,
yeah.
Maybe you're right when you say like the cast of interesting characters just isn't there. I mean, in the old days, Deb Gray was always a great character to interview. Preston Manning was a great guy to interview because he could talk about anything and was just happy to be there and just, very genuine and sincere. He was great and not that guarded, which I loved, and didn't take himself that seriously. Bob Ray is a favorite, himself too seriously, at least not when he's doing my show.
I know he's naked when
he got naked
the
with
show.
me, yeah, which is pretty good. That was good of him to do that. I told him, I said, Bob, if you do this, you will beat Ignatieff. And then he did it, and he didn't. But I don't think
So
the two
your word is...
I don't think the two are connected. I think it may be...
Well, you had... Everything was fuzzed out, so they can't
That's
be
true.
connected.
No, exactly. We digitized the naughty bits.
I'd like to talk about your hair.
Yes.
You have classic hair.
I have good TV hair.
Yeah, you do.
I can be on a mountain in Banff. I can be in pouring rain. I can be on a boat.
And?
I can be in a windstorm. It just stays the same.
The same.
Yes.
And is it
comes
the
in
cut?
packages of 5. I just glue it on.
Glue it on,
Yeah.
and off you go.
No, it's like, I don't know.
It's super curly.
It's super curly.
And I'm not sure...
Wind resistant, rain resistant hair.
Does it grow like a pet? You know, like a chia pet? Does it?
It does.
Yeah?
I get it trimmed.
Regularly?
Like most people.
Yeah, but do you have to do something special to it?
No.
No.
Although I remember going to a barber shop in Newfoundland once, and this old guy said, I know how to cut your hair like black men during the war. Because he was like 82 and he was a barber. And then he told me about how he was in the Navy and he used to cut hair, and he was from Newfoundland. That was the first time he met black people, and then he said, I know how to do your hair.
And? Was it the
didn't.
worst cut you ever had?
No, he just...
Okay. Do you go to the same barber, or do you...
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's...
See, now we're getting into that personal stuff.
I know, but the only reason I'm asking is because...
His name is Anthony.
That's a very nice name.
It is.
Well, it's very nice hair.
Thank
and
you.
I just was wondering if, you know, it's kind of a very important part of you. And if you have
I
to
wouldn't
take
say it's an
special care.
important part of me.
Of course it is.
But it's certainly, it comes in handy on TV that it doesn't move. Because
Yeah.
I know people have a lot of issues when they're out there and it's windy. I don't have those issues.
No, it wouldn't go anywhere, would it?
No.
You didn't finish high school.
No.
Have you got your degree now?
No.
Okay, so tell me
I have an
about
honorary high school degree from a school for the learning disabled.
That's brilliant.
I do.
And
I
you
do.
have many
And-
honourary degrees.
And I
from
tell you, the thing
universities.
about getting the honorary high school diploma from a school for the learning disabled, the problem with that, and I was happy to do it, and it was a wonderful experience, was then it was put in the paper that I had a learning disability. And then it went online that I had a learning disability. And for many years, people would say, I'd be in an interview and they'd bring up my learning disability.
Okay.
And then, you know, you're in a catch-22 then. You don't want to start saying, I don't have a learning disability, because then, like, you're making it sound like there's something wrong with having a learning disability.
Right.
But for a long time, people thought I didn't finish school because I had a learning disability. I didn't finish school because I was lazy and distracted and touring the coast of Labrador with a clown. That's why I didn't finish school. Had nothing to do with the learning disability.
Do you regret it?
Yeah, and I don't talk about it very often. You know, you mentioned earlier, and you said, is there anything you don't like to talk about? And I didn't mention not finishing high school because I didn't think about it. Because it's one of the things I don't talk about, because I used to, you know, when I was 19 or 20, I was pretty cocky about it. But as you get older, you realize it's just not a very good example for anyone, so why make a big deal about it? So yeah, I would certainly say I regret it. And I did get my transcript from the Department of Education in Newfoundland recently because I thought maybe I would finish.
Okay,
It was a weak moment. I don't know why I would do that.
You know what I find
I
interesting...
can't picture myself next summer with my grade 11 math textbook, but you never know. Who knows?
You could get a tutor.
I know.
No, but I think, I mean, it would be interesting...
And then I would try to make the tutor laugh and distract the tuter, just
so
like
that you
in
didn't
grade
have to
11.
finish high school.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to know whether you actually really don't... I mean, at the time, it was the right decision for you, and it's not like it went wrong. Is it? Do you really wish that you had finished,
I went all my years. I went
all
all the years. I'm just a terrible procrastinator, and it was like one of those things, you know, and it was like, oh, I'll pick it up next year, and then by the end, I just didn't have enough. And it was a dumb decision. I mean, certainly, you know, no one should not finish school. That's pretty stupid. So it's not something I'm proud of, no.
Okay. You have just started supporting this organization, and you did through one of your rants. It's called It Gets Better, that tries to help kids, gay kids who are being bullied.
Yeah.
Are you supporting it because you think it's a great cause, or were you yourself bullied in school for being
it's
gay?
not. I don't even know if it's an organization. I mean, it's a campaign, right? It was a campaign that started in the States by this fellow Dan Savage,
right,
who's you know, a columnist. He's a very funny columnist, and he started it. I mean, from what I understand, the reasons why he made this video about It Gets Better is because he was reacting to the suicide of this young man in the United States. And when he read about this young man, his feeling was he wished that he could just spend 5 minutes with the kid and say, you know what, it gets better. And he made the point that, you know, gay kids, they don't really have the opportunity to talk to, you know, gay adults that often, and gay adults don't have an opportunity to talk to gay teenagers, so he would do it on the internet. And that certainly resonated with me, because I did a rant in 2007 for the same reasons, because it was Bullying Awareness Week in Ontario or Canada, I guess, and there was actually a few sketches written in the office making fun of the notion of Bullying Awareness Week, like, you know, like it was a silly idea. And then this kid, Shaquille Wisdom, his name was, which is a lovely name, he killed himself in the middle of that campaign. And he did it because he told his friend he was gay, and then his friend told someone else, and it got out, and then he was cyberbullied. Someone created a website called Shaquille is a Fag or something like that, and he took his own life. And I felt the same way. I just thought, oh God, if only, you know, someone could have said, don't worry about these guys, like this will all pass. That's why I did it. So that's why I did the rant, and that's why I'm doing I got involved with the Canadian campaign that Dan Savage inspired, I guess. Me personally, I wasn't bullied. You know,
is that because no one knew?
Well, yeah. I mean, well, you know, it's you know, when you're gay in high school, it's certainly. I mean, it must be completely different now.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's actually gay people in high school. I mean, there was no gay people in high school when I was there, but there's certainly kids that are targeted, and you know, they get bullied for being gay. A lot of them probably aren't. I mean, my buddy, you know, Jeff is straight as the day is long, and you know, he was bullied and called a fag, but he was just because he was a nerd and he was a weirdo. You know, they just target you. You know, so he would have been bullied. I wasn't. But but certainly, yeah, lots of kids are. I mean, it's not always because they're gay, of course. They just get targeted because they're different.
How long are you going to stay on TV?
27 more years.
Awesome.
I have no idea. I mean, I'm in comedy, and so I always feel that as long as people are watching, you can stay on TV. But I don't have any interest in sticking around past my best before date. And
well, your hair's not going anywhere.
The hair's not going anywhere, thank God. I think I'm the only actor in Canada
with real hair?
Not on Propecia. I figured that out the other day. I was at the Gemini Awards and someone mentioned Propecia, and then guys were all like, "Oh yeah, I'm on Propecia." "Oh yeah, Propecia. What kind of pills? Yeah, how many? What's your dose?" I'm going, "What's Propecia?" They're all on Propecia. Apparently, it's bankrupting my union because it's covered.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure to chat with you.
Thanks very much.